Today's briefing spans one of the widest threat surfaces we've seen in weeks: AI agents turning into shadow IT risks, nation-state malware campaigns across Asia and Europe, zero-day authentication bypasses at the network edge, and ransomware automation wiping thousands of exposed databases. We're covering security concerns around OpenClaw AI agents, Chinese APT malware using browser-based delivery, Iranian operations targeting NGOs with AI-generated malware, Fortinet and Ivanti 0 days under active exploitation, coordinated attacks against Polish energy infrastructure, and a surge in MFA bypass phishing tied to SaaS breaches. This episode matters because nearly every story today shares a common theme: attackers abusing trust, whether it's trusted identities, trusted AI tools, trusted update prompts, or trusted cloud services. Instead of just reading headlines, we're analyzing how attackers operate, what's being targeted, and what defenders should prioritize. Welcome to Threatopia, where we break down real cyber threats, breaches, and the security patterns that actually matter. This is the cybersecurity briefing you can't afford to miss. I'm your host, Mike Kramer. I've been securing critical infrastructure, private and public sector around the world for the past 20 years, helping organizations stay ahead of real attacks. Make sure to watch till the end to find out what a former Google engineer was convicted of giving to Chinese tech firms. Upcoming industry events are, of course, the RSA Conference, March 23rd to March 26th at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, California, and SANS coming up in March 29th through April 3rd in Orlando, Florida at the Hyatt Regency. That is the full SANS curriculum under one roof with over 50 courses and a new AI security training. Today's security tip is to turn on disk encryption. On Windows, it's called BitLocker. On Mac, it's called FileVault. Most modern hardware will not slow down by enabling this. If your devices ever get misplaced or stolen, this could mean all the difference in whether or not your information gets leaked. We got 15 stories to cover today and summarize. Here's a rapid scan of the most important cybersecurity developments. Open source AI agent OpenClaw is drawing attacker attention as exposed instances are scanned, authentication is bypassed, and privileged access is abused as shadow IT. Chinese advanced persistent threat groups are deploying the PECBIRDie command and control framework through compromised gambling websites and fake browser updates across Asia. Critical vulnerabilities in the n8n workflow automation platform allow full remote code execution and potential corporate takeover if unpatched. Researchers demonstrate a new semantic chaining jailbreak that bypasses AI image safety controls through incremental prompt manipulation. Fortinet disables FortiCloud SSO globally after a 0-day allows attackers to gain administrative access to edge devices. Iran-aligned Red Kitten targets NGOs and activists using macro-enabled Excel lures and AI-generated malware with cloud-based command and control. Mandiant reports a surge in Shiny Hunter-style phishing campaigns that bypass MFA and compromise SaaS environments. Polish energy and manufacturing sectors face coordinated wiper attacks linked to the static Tundra threat cluster. A former Google engineer is convicted of stealing AI trade secrets and transferring them to Chinese tech firms. Microsoft announces plans to disable NTLM by default, accelerating the retirement of legacy authentication risks. Automated ransomware campaigns are wiping more than 1,400 exposed MongoDB databases. Apple introduces a feature to limit precise carrier-level location tracking. Ivanti patches and actively exploited 0-day vulnerabilities in Endpoint Manager Mobile. Microsoft's Data Security Index highlights rising AI-driven data exposure risks. And a critical LangChain vulnerability exposes AI supply chains to serialization injection attacks. And on to today's attack pattern deep dive. This episode's dominant pattern centers on exposed services, abused identities, and trust exploitation. Initial access frequently begins with exploitation of public-facing applications, whether that's vulnerable Fortinet devices, n8n servers, Ivanti EPMM endpoints, or exposed MongoDB instances, or misconfigured AI agents like OpenClaw. Once inside, attackers consistently rely on credential abuse. Valid accounts, human and non-human, are used for persistence, lateral movement, and cloud access. This is evident in SaaS phishing campaigns, FortiCloud SSO bypasses, insider theft at Google, and AI workflows operating outside traditional IAM controls. Execution commonly leverages scripting environments and trusted binaries. PowerShell, command interpreters, browser scripts, and native Windows utilities are repeatedly used to blend into normal system behavior and evade detection. Defense evasion shows up through authentication bypasses, macro abuse, obfuscated data transfers, and the use of legitimate cloud platforms like GitHub, Google Drive, Telegram, and Google Cloud for command and control and data exfiltration. On the impact side, we see a mix of espionage, data theft, infrastructure sabotage attempts, and automated ransomware wiping databases at scale. There is no single ransomware family dominating today, but automation, identity abuse, and supply chain risk clearly are. Covering our business impact and data breach risk, the business impact across today's stories is concrete and severe. Organizations running unpatched automation platforms or AI workflows face full environment compromise, credential theft, and downstream system access, not just localized incidents. SaaS breaches, driven by MFA bypass and vishing, directly enable exfiltration, extortion, and reputational damage, often without triggering traditional endpoint alerts. Infrastructure attacks in Poland demonstrate how cyber operations can target energy and manufacturing sectors with destructive intent, risking service disruption and regulatory scrutiny, even when production isn't ultimately impacted. Insider theft of AI trade secrets highlights long-term economic and geopolitical consequences, including loss of intellectual property and competitive advantage. And automated ransomware against exposed databases shows how even low ransom demands can result in irreversible data loss and operational downtime. And some defender lessons of this episode are: first, exposed services remain one of the highest risk attack surfaces. If it's internet facing, it will be scanned, exploited, or wiped. Second, identity is the new perimeter, but only if it's enforced consistently. Weak MFA, help desk social engineering, and non-human identities or NHIs outside IAM controls are being abused at scale. Third, AI tools and automation platforms must be treated as privileged systems, not convenience utilities. Shadow AI deployments introduce silent attack paths that bypass existing controls. Fourth, attackers increasingly rely on legitimate cloud services for command and control and data staging, making visibility and behavioral monitoring essential. And finally, patch velocity still matters. Multiple 0 days in this episode were exploited before full details were public. For our security concept of the day, today's key concept is non-human identity or NHI risk. AI agents, automation workflows, service accounts, and API integrations operate with credentials and permissions, but often without the same monitoring, rotation, or governance applied to human users. When compromised, these identities provide persistent, trusted access that attackers can exploit without triggering alarms tied to user behavior. Several of the stories we saw today, from OpenClaw to n8n to LangChain, demonstrate how attackers are increasingly targeting these overlooked identities as high-value entry points. A little more info on the ex-Google engineer convicted for stealing AI trade secrets for a China startup. Lin Wei-ding was convicted of stealing over 2,000 confidential documents related to Google's AI supercomputing infrastructure and sharing them with Chinese tech firms. Ding was found guilty of economic espionage and theft of trade secrets after secretly affiliating with founding AI companies in China while employed at Google. What could help defend against that from happening at other firms is to implement strict data loss prevention or DLP controls and monitor for unusual data transfers to personal accounts to prevent insider theft of sensitive information. Today's takeaway is simple but urgent. Attackers are exploiting trust faster than organizations are securing it. Whether it's trusted AI agents, trusted identities, trusted cloud services, or trusted infrastructure, the path in is often already open. Patch aggressively, lock down identities, treat automation and AI as privileged systems, and assume exposed services are already being targeted. That's today's threat landscape. If you like this episode, please rate the podcast 5 stars. It helps support the show. Thanks for listening. Stay sharp, stay patched, and we'll see you next time on Threatopia. Just so you know, these are real. This is a ukulele bass.